Wrath bent down over her. Her breath was sweet and minty, and he captured her lips with his mouth. When he felt her flinch, he pulled back immediately. Frowning, he touched the side of her mouth. "Forget it," she told him, pulling out his shoulders. The hell he would! God help the human who'd hurt her. Wrath was going to rip the guy's limbs off and leave him to bleed out in the streets. Well, why he said that was because earlier in the book, this dude tried to rape her and punched her in the lip. Oh. So she flinched because she has a fat lip, and he kissed it. But anyway, he dropped a soft kiss to the healing bruise and then drew his tongue down her neck. This time, when she thrust her breasts out, he slid his hand under her thin shirt and onto her smooth, warm skin. Her belly was flat, and he spanned it with his hand, filling the space between her hip bones. Greedy to know the rest of her, he peeled her shirt off and tossed it aside. Her bra was pale in color, and he traced the edges of it with his fingertips before cupping the creamy swells with his hands. Breasts filled his palms, and nipples tight buds underneath the soft satin. Wrath's control snapped. He bared his fangs, let out a hiss, and bit through the bra's front closure. The thing snapped back, and he latched onto one of her nipples with his lips, drawing it into his mouth. As he suckled, he shifted his body and stretched out on top of her, falling in between her legs. She absorbed his weight with a throaty sigh. Her hands came between them as she reached for the front of his shirt. If he didn't have the patience to let her undress him, he lifted up and ripped the material off his body, popping buttons and sending them scattering across the floor. When he came back down, her breasts hit the wall of his chest and her body surged under his. He wanted to kiss her mouth again, but he was way past anything soft and gentle. So he worshipped her breasts with his tongue and then moved down to her belly. When he got to the waistband of her boxers, he drew them off her long, smooth legs. Wrath felt something in his head pop as her scent reached him in a fresh wave. He was perilously close to orgasm already, his release poised in his shaft, his body shaking with the need to take her. He put his hand between her thighs. She was so wet and hot that he growled. Crazed though he was, he had to taste her before he invaded her. Drawing off his sunglasses, he put them next to the cigarillo before pressing kisses over her hips and across the tops of her thighs. Her hands tangled in his hair as she urged him exactly where he was headed. He kissed her softest skin, drawing her core into his mouth, and she came over and over again for him until he couldn't fight his own need any longer. He pulled back, shrugged out of his pants, and covered her with his body once more. She wrapped her legs around his hips, and he hissed as her heat burned his erection. He used what was left of his strength to pull back and look down into her face. "Don't stop," she breathed. "I want to feel you inside me." Wrath dropped his head in the fragrant hollow of her neck and slowly drew his hips back. The tip of his erection slid into place perfectly, and he sheathed himself in her body with one powerful stroke. He let out a bellow of ecstasy. Heaven. Now he knew what heaven was like.